President Biden is now endorsing his vice president, Kamala Harris, to be the nominee of the Democratic Party this year. I want to read now what the president says himself. In a post on X, formerly known as Twitter, he says he reiterates he's decided not to accept the nomination and to focus his energies on his duties as president for the remainder of his term. He goes on to say that his first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. He says, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, he says, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. He concludes by saying, and again, this is President Biden saying, Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. So, Kristen, we now have our moderator of Meet the Press joining us on the phone. We now have a real answer now to the question that we've had ever since this news broke that President Biden is withdrawing from this race. He is endorsing Kamala Harris to take the top of the ticket. What does the process look like from here? She obviously now would have to suggest or select, I should say, a running mate, Kristen, which is another process that will have to unfold over the course of the next couple of weeks before the Democratic convention.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It is a new day. We thank the good Lord it's a new day. Thank God it is a new day. So good to see you again. It's BWJ on our Channel 1 Life many seasons. Here we have it, a breaking news. President Biden has finally dropped out and now has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. It's a new twist to the whole story now. Let's see what we have here.
That's right. And it's our understanding that the vice president had actually started that process, Hallie. And this is not a surprise. Again, this moment is stunning when you take a step back and really think about what is unfolding. And yet, this is where we believed this was heading if and when President Biden did make that ultimate decision to drop out of the race. There was so much pressure on him from within the party to choose Kamala Harris, to endorse Kamala Harris as his vice.
I don't think it was just so much pressure to pick Kamala Harris. There's so much pressure to drop out. That in itself was enough pressure. And I actually do feel some type of a relief. I don't know if you feel the same way, that Biden finally comes out, because I think it was just getting too chaotic in the Democratic Party. It's not good for the party. It wasn't good for the nation. I think he made the right decision. But is that the best decision? We're yet to see that. And you can put your comments in the comment section below. Let us have the discussion. I have my take on it. Please stay till the end, and I will give as we go as well.
Vice President, because think about the backlash had he not done this. I think there's also an urgency to have an answer to the question, who will replace him at the top of the ticket, and just a deep concern that if there were to be a so-called mini primary, that would ultimately expend a lot of time, a lot of resources that the party just does not think it has at this point. So again, Hallie, not overwhelmingly surprising that he is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris. And again, she has started the process of looking for a potential running mate, undoubtedly looking at a number of governors all across this country. But again, just a really stunning moment that the President of the United States has now officially announced he's not seeking re-election and is passing the torch, as those protesters yesterday outside of the White House had urged him to do, to pass the torch. He has now done that, Hallie.
But isn't that the normal process? The normal process of running the government, right? Especially in the position of the president. If you are not capable, the normal thing is to expect the vice president to come up and step up. And to me, that's why it's so important that when we are making decisions to vote, I always look at the vice president, because I'm always of the mindset anything can happen. We don't know. So is this a vice president that can easily step into the presidential role if anything were to happen to the president? So I think it's really important. The pressure from all of his internal party, all around him, it was just too much. And it kept growing every day from, it was, at one point it was a single digit. I think it was like 7 or 9. It grew to like double digits, 17, and then became 35 of them. It was just too much. And I think President Biden made the right decision. I actually feel good. I feel happy that he made this decision, because I think it's time for him to just go rest. And now you can see he can now focus the remaining months left to run the country, and can just ease out and leave the Democratic Party. Let them run with it now. Let the young bloods run with it right now.
One of the questions, of course, Kristen, is does this put Democrats in a better position against former President Trump, in a relatively equal position as if it were President Biden on the ticket? When you look at some of the polling, there are some surveys, some numbers that suggest that the vice president polls slightly better than President Biden did against former President Trump. But there's some polling that suggests it's fairly even here. So there's a real question mark, of course, moving forward as to what this means politically for Democrats come November, Kristen.
There is a big question mark, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Look, she's competitive with him. And that's what I think President Biden wanted to see before he made that official decision to pass the torch, as it were, to his vice president. He wanted to see that she's competitive, and the polls suggest she is very competitive. And look, I've been talking to Democrats who say this is a moment in which she can be reintroduced to the country, not just on the campaign trail, but also when you think about it, the convention. Hallie, think about the convention that you and I just covered in Milwaukee. All of that attention will now be foisted upon the vice president as she prepares to take the mantle of the Democratic nomination. So I think that is an opportunity, and the Democratic Party believes that is a potential strength and could help them in the polls and with some of those undecided, moderate, independent voters who are going to be so critical in November. And by the way, the Trump campaign has already set its sights on the vice president. They've already started doing their own opposition research
been proactive
to lay out the case against her.
There we have it. President Joe Biden has dropped out of the presidential race. I'm happy for him. I think this has now finally relieved all the pressure. He can now finally focus because I think the burden was just too much on him. All the traveling, doing the rallies and stuff. And when they mentioned that he had a COVID and he was being isolated for recovery, I said to myself, I think this is it. This is their strategy to get him away from the scene, from the media, because they were coming back with a new news. And here we have it, the breaking news. President Biden has finally dropped out. Well, I wish President Biden all the best, his family, Jill, and the kids and the entire family. He did his best. His best just wasn't good enough. Apparently, his best just was not good enough. I wish him the best. My prayer and hope is that he'll live long enough to see what happens to the Democratic Party he left behind. At this point. Now to the other question, real quick. Kamala Harris is who President Biden has endorsed. Is that a good choice? For me, I say a big uppercase capital N-O. No. That is my thought process. She is not fit to be president. She's not capable. She hasn't proven anything. The one thing I'm asking so far for 4 years, I have not seen. She was supposed to produce the root cause analysis of the border crisis. We still haven't seen that. 4 years. So is that the type of person we want as a president who cannot produce one thing in 4 years? So I tell you, for me, she is not fit to be president. Cannot vote Kamala Harris. However, where does the Democratic Party put RFK Jr.? What about him? What happens to him at this point? And I wonder why he wasn't part of the debate. What is going on? Give everybody a chance that wants to run or think they can run. We have in the Republican Party, President Trump. We have in the Democratic Party now, Kamala Harris, and we have as an independent RFK Jr. Why isn't he involved in the whole process? Allow people to make their choices. Do not force people to make choices. But again, thank you, President Joe Biden. You've done your best. Your best was not good enough for the American people. The American people have spoken. Your party has spoken. And I do give him a lot of respect for honoring their wish, because had he not and something went wrong, he would be blamed for everything else. And I don't think he wants to do that in this old age of his. It's time for President Biden to go rest and enjoy the rest of his life. But here we are. Here is the breaking news that we have. President Biden has finally dropped out. Well done, President Biden. You've done your time. You've done your best. I wish you and your family nothing but the best. But now the race continues. Who are the Democratic Party finally going to get behind? The story continues. Please put your comments in the comment section below. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll be coming back with more pieces. Thank you so much. It's me, WJ, again on Channel 1 Life, many seasons. You know how we like to close this out? We like to remind ourselves that we always remember we got one life with many seasons. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. You take care now. Bye-bye.